Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and today's project is a little different in that for the first time in like 11 years, I'm sewing a pattern made by somebody else. I've never done that on my channel here, so this is kinda new, and I'm not gonna call this a tutorial since it's not my work, but I am gonna share most of the construction. A few clips are missing because my camera is starting to get old and have problems, but that's a story for another day. Right now, what matters is that I'm making a pattern that came from antiquelilac.com, and I'll link to the project page on that site so you can see where I got it. It's a three-piece outfit that was originally designed for Ippelhaus KIDs, but I enlarged the pattern a bit to try and make it for Little Rune, who is on the new version of the Soom Little Gym body. It's got pants, a tunic, and a surcoat, and I'll be making all three pieces today. I've been in love with Martha's work since I started my doll hobby and have always wanted to sew some of the patterns she's shared through the years. And that's kind of a whole weird thing because for all these years I have, for some reason or another, been convinced that I can't sew her patterns because I'm not good enough. That I'm not skilled enough to do it, so I can't do it, so I shouldn't try. And logically that's kind of silly because what have I been doing for the past decade? I've been sewing stuff for my dolls, and then for the past 5 or 6 years I've been giving away my own patterns, sometimes really complicated ones, and creating tutorials to help people make things from those patterns themselves. So the whole idea that I somehow wouldn't be able to follow a pattern and make something is pretty ridiculous. And it stuck in my head for obviously a long time, and it wasn't until sometime this past November that I finally started to unravel where that mentality was coming from. A lot of it comes from a sense of dissatisfaction with things I make. It's really true that we're always our own worst critics, and where I only see the flaws or mistakes in things that I create, everyone else sees the parts of the design they like or enjoy. And learning to be happy with the things you make is its own ordeal and not really the point of my rambling today. But what is the point is learning what I can do about that dissatisfaction and what you can do if you're experiencing the same thing. Because, let's be honest, a lot of creative struggles are universal between people who create. I don't think I've ever met any artists or writers or any other type of creative folk that don't have this sense of disappointment with their own capability, even when they're generally happy with how pieces turn out, and they present themselves as satisfied with their work. There's always this little part of us that says, we can do this better, we're not performing at the level we're capable of, we're not stretching our boundaries the way we should be. And sometimes the best solution is giving yourself the space you need to be able to stretch your boundaries the way you want. With that in mind, I'm going to be making some changes to my YouTube schedule, which I'll elaborate on in more detail later. For right now, the important part is understanding that giving yourself space also means giving ourselves the freedom to mess stuff up, get things wrong, and experiment with ways to fix the things we wanted to achieve but didn't quite reach. An example of that is the embroidery I did on the sleeves of this tunic. Because I learned along the way that the machine doesn't actually perfectly center all the fancy stitches, and even though I positioned the foot the same way on both sleeves, just in different directions, One ended up being about 2 millimeters higher than the other, and it was just enough difference to make me unhappy with the result. But there was another issue I encountered, which was that I apparently didn't measure his arms very well, so the sleeves ended up being a bit short. Instead of letting this be a frustration, I tried to turn it into an opportunity for experimentation, and instead added different decorative stitching to a ribbon and stitched it on over the top of the design I wasn't happy with. Not only did this add another level of detail to his outfit, but it also helped unify the design because it let me incorporate another color. Using the black ribbon meant it helped tie things together better when I added black lace to the cuffs of the sleeves to help extend them and make up for the shortness. So overall, I ended up being happy with that decision, even though the lace and ribbon were not part of my original plan. It also helped me in some ways to see that the way she'd assembled her tunic and surcoat left some zigzagged seams on the inside of the lining. I have often fought with linings in tiny scale, and while they're gorgeous when they turn out nicely, I've sometimes wondered if it's worth the extra effort to scale down something as difficult as a lining and construct it perfectly when those seams are in places that won't ever be visible unless the doll's clothes are being changed. It was very freeing to see that someone with a lot more experience and skill than me was okay with taking little shortcuts that don't ultimately impact how the garment looks or lays, but saves a lot of time and effort. I don't know if I'll put things together that way all the time, but having a chance to let go of my own constant push for perfection and realize that her work, which is perfect in my eyes, doesn't hold itself to the same arbitrary standards I cling to for myself was an enormous relief and reassurance. Probably the biggest thing that came from all this introspection was realizing that in a lot of ways, the way I've structured what I do doesn't allow for me to reach my full potential because I don't give myself time. I don't give myself the space I need. This project took me about 10 days because of the choice of embellishments I decided to go with, but I loved the way it came together in the end. While I do usually lean toward more casual or simple designs because they look like the kind of things people really wear, I mean, I'm just wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and a jacket right now, I do like fancier things too. And since a lot of my dolls are characters from fantasy worlds, there's so much potential and opportunity for me to explore designs, and that includes decorations and embellishments for the outfits. The problem I run into is that I created a standard for myself where I try to share something to offer something to everyone else every single week. I love that, and I love being able to provide guides and tutorials and all these free patterns, but it also means keeping a very strenuous work schedule. Making and testing a pattern keeps a lot of time, and so does filming and editing and making sure I write clear instructions to relay in the videos. And then there's digitizing and preparing the patterns, and all that is a full-time job right there on its own. In the past, I've been able to offset this enormous time sink of making patterns and stuff by having easier things I can do in between. Because I can do a face-up in one day and have a finished video ready to upload 2 days after that. but I've kind of reached the end of that stage of customization in my collection. The only things I have left to do for my dolls is making new clothing and clothing patterns, and making a few of my own original head sculpts for the dolls I have unfinished. None of those are things that I can get done in a few days, especially not if I want to give myself room to improve my work and really start pushing my work to the level I know it could be. Pattern testing is time-consuming enough, but making doll heads is its own beast and is fraught with long, slow work. So with that in mind, I've decided to kind of dial back what I'm doing for finished, polished YouTube videos like this, and instead of every single week, I'll be dropping down to every other week. I might occasionally have things to share in between there, but my fixed schedule will be every other week starting in February. Ideally, this will give me the time I need to explore the bigger, fancier, more ornate projects I want to be able to do, because I want to be able to pass those things on to you as well. I don't intend to sell my patterns. I want to always be able to give them away for free. But there are only so many basic designs I can make, and I realize I need to give myself the room I need to develop more intricate things. Because it becomes a problem for you too eventually, right? If all I'm sharing is the simple basic stuff, I'm not offering anything to keep inspiring you to move upward in skill or ability after you've conquered those basics. We grow as a community as long as we give ourselves time and space to develop as individuals. So I'm hoping that by giving myself more time to work, I'll be able to do a better job of lifting up everyone around me as I advance. That's not to say that everything I share will suddenly be super fancy or complicated. There will always be ideas for more simple designs that I can share, and in fact the next thing I plan on making was a viewer request, and will be more simple, but I haven't even had time to shop for the material I need to make it, so I won't say more than that. It also doesn't mean that you'll only see stuff from me twice a month, because as I've been realizing a lot of what I want to do will take more time to complete, I've also realized a lot of it isn't well suited to videos like these, but it's very well suited to sharing live. So also in February, I'm going to start experimenting with occasionally live streaming some of my work time. I've used Twitch a couple times in the past few weeks, and it was a lot of fun and worked really well for what I was doing. I'm not sure if I'll stay there or if I'll try YouTube Live, but either way I'll make sure those live streams are uploaded here, because I know I have friends all over the world in different time zones and with different work schedules, and I don't even know what days or times I'll be able to stream yet. So my streaming schedule will probably be all over the place while I'm finding a rhythm of what works for me now. Even if all I do is trim something up and share a highlight reel and not a full hour and whatever stream, I'll make sure everything is here so it's easy to find. For right now, I guess that's all I really have to share. Suffice to say, though scaling the pattern didn't work perfectly and it doesn't fit as flawlessly as it could, this outfit was definitely not something that was impossible for me to put together, and I think working on it helped relieve a lot of my anxieties about my capability as a creator. There are a lot of things I'd do differently, but I like how it looks in the end, and I think it suits my doll well. There are a few little things I might adjust, and the doll himself still needs better S-hooks in his wrists, and to have his wrists sueded, but for now I'm calling him complete, and just enjoying what I've gotten done. I think one of my next projects might be making one of Martha's Renaissance dresses, because I've always been in love with that pattern, and I think I'm ready now. So if you'd like to see me work on that, or if you'd like to weigh in on the streaming stuff, drop me a comment, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's all for today though. Thanks for watching. Bye.